and the custodians of its future. Sir, permit me now to invite the 16 pupils selected to lead us in the recital of the preamble to the Constitution. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may we all kindly rise for the recital of the preamble to the Constitution set out on page 7 of the program. Page 7 of the program.
Good morning, Your Excellency, honorable gentlemen and women. Before you is Jamhuri High School and Pangani High School, presenting to you the recital of the preamble of the 2010 Constitution of Kenya. We, the people of Kenya,
acknowledging the supremacy of the Almighty God of all creation, honoring those who heroically struggled to bring freedom and justice to our land, proud of our ethnic, cultural, and religious diversity, and determined to live in peace and unity as one indivisible sovereign nation, respectful of the environment, which is our heritage, and determined to sustain it for the benefit of future generations, committed to nurturing and protecting the well-being of the individual, the family, communities, and the nation. Recognizing the aspirations of all Kenyans for a government based on the essential values of human rights, equality, freedom, democracy, social justice, and the rule of law. Exercising our sovereign and inalienable right to determine the form of governance of our country, and having participated fully in the making of this constitution, having adopted, enacted, and given this constitution to ourselves and to our future generations, and having promulgated it on the 27th day of August in the year of our Lord 2010, do hereby, on this 16th anniversary of its promulgation, reaffirm our commitment to respect, uphold, and defend this constitution for the glory of Kenya. God bless Kenya.
Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you may kindly take your seats. Thank you. Your Excellency, the aspirations proclaimed in the preamble are marked throughout the contours of our Constitution. Among its most consequential reforms were devolution and the establishment of Constitutional Commission and independent offices. Devolution brought government resources and decision-making closer to the people. Constitutional commissions and independent offices were established to protect the sovereignty of the people, secure observance by all state organs of democratic values and principles, and promote constitutionalism. Through these institutions, the Constitution was intended to take root across the Republic and find expressions in the daily lives of Kenyans. 16 years on, this Katiba Day provides an occasion to account for how faithfully these institutions have discharged their mandates and how meaningfully their work has advanced the constitutional promise. Are our institutions protecting rights and serving citizens? Are they strengthening accountability? Are their constitutional mandates producing measurable improvements in the lives of the people? These questions lie at the heart of today's symposium. They guide this national examination of the progress made, the obligations that remain, and the work required to give full effect to the Constitution. That work calls for sustained coordination amongst the institutions established under our constitutional order. Within the organization of the national government, the Office of the Deputy President is responsible for coordinating relations between the two levels of government and facilitating engagement with constitutional commissions and independent offices. It is pursuant to that mandate that His Excellency, the Deputy President, has provided leadership in convening the 2026 Katiba Day Symposium and shaping its constitutional accountability agenda. To set the context for the proceedings and frame the constitutional responsibilities that will guide our deliberations, it is now my singular honor and privilege to invite the Deputy President to address this symposium and thereafter invite His Excellency the President to make his remarks. Sir, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency the Deputy President.
Your Excellency, sir, I ride on all the protocols that have been established already and would like to say the following before I invite you, Your Excellency. That on a moment like this one, 5 things, at least for me, ran through my mind. The first is on the 16th anniversary of celebrating the constitution that we established for ourselves to guide the creation of a modern Kenya. It is an occasion to look at how far we have traveled in the journey of living up to the aspirations of our Constitution as captured in the preamble, which has just been recited for us, but also in the foundational articles of the Constitution that form the bedrock upon which our constitutional architecture is raised. These foundational articles define Kenya as a democratic multi-party state. It defines the territory of Kenya in Article 5, where it stretches from, and the subnational units that constitute Kenya, the 47 counties of our republic. It defines us as a multicultural, multi-ethnic, multiracial, multi-religious society determined to live together as one sovereign, indivisible nation. Your Excellency, it is a good time for us to reflect on how far we have advanced our sovereignty and the sovereignty of the people of Kenya, how far we have kept the unity of our nation, and how far we've traveled in forging tolerance and finding strength as a nation in our diversity. The second item, or the second theme that runs through my reflection on a day like this as a citizen of Kenya is how far again in those 16 years, Your Excellency, we have been able to perfect our vertical relationships. Looking at the Constitution, a relationship is envisaged between those who act on behalf of the state and the people. The relationship between the legislature, judiciary, and the executive at the national level, and the executive and the legislature at the county level, and also holders of constitutional commissions and independent offices. How the three arms of government and the two arms of government at the county level relate to one another and especially relate to the citizens of Kenya, the vertical relationship. Number three is the horizontal relationship among the arms of government themselves and the levels of government, and how we have come to perfect devolution, to respect the independence of the judiciary, to respect the independence of the legislature, how far the legislature has been a check on the executive, and how far the judiciary has helped us to interpret the laws of our land. That is the third thing that runs through my mind. But there is a fourth theme that runs through my mind, Your Excellency. And this is the software of our nation. Our Constitution envisages that this nation, other than the development we do for ourselves, will be run on the basis of certain values, national values, and principles of our governance. Article 10, read together with Article 232 of the Constitution, provides the software of our nation. And the question is, to what extent have we been patriotic? To what extent have we advanced the rule of law, human rights, democracy, environmental sustainability, accountability, the values of the public service in Article 232, etc., etc. And I think on a day like this one, we will be listening to one another to find out what journey we have covered and where the gaps are, so that we can perfect our nation's software as we also strengthen its hardware. Finally, Your Excellency, on a day like this one, I and perhaps a few others in this room are curious to reflect on the 16 years that we have taken to advance the requirements of the two legs on which our country and our democracy is founded. These two legs are found in the Bill of Rights, but they are also scattered everywhere else, including the preamble. The first limb is the limb of democracy. and the need to advance a nation founded on human dignity and human rights and democratic ideals. But there is a second limb, Your Excellency. And this is the limb that you invited us to begin a conversation on as we look towards a Kenya beyond 2030. And this is the limb of prosperity. I dare say, Your Excellency, before I invite you, that as you reminded us when you were launching this conversation, that the aspiration of our constitutional order is very much about democracy, but it's also very much about creating wealth for the citizens of Kenya, empowering the citizens, and realizing the aspects of the Bill of Rights that give dignity and empowerment to the citizen, creating a wealthy, healthy Kenya. Rights that have been ignored for some time now around decent housing, their right to health, the right to access the things that make life convenient and comfortable. And I dare say, Africa, Kenya, the developing world must not shy away from pursuing wealth and talking about wealth creation as much as we advance democracy. And therefore, mine, Your Excellency, is to listen to you and to the many other people that I see gathered here. I see the fathers of our Constitution present here. I see the children of our Constitution right here. And because we have a long morning ahead of us, and because also I see many people who are much more qualified on the matters of today's discussion than I am, I want to stop there and request that we be upstanding and invite His Excellency the President to set the tone for this meeting. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Speak to the nation.
Thank you very much. Please, let's take our seats. Asante sana. Distinguished guests, fellow citizens, ladies and gentlemen, on this day, 16 years ago, Kenya did not merely promulgate a new supreme law. We entered a new constitutional order and renewed the covenant upon which our republic is established. Generations of Kenyans had struggled and sacrificed for this moment. They wanted a nation governed not by the whims of the mighty and powerful, but by the sovereign will of the people. A nation in which authority would be restrained by law, public office exercised as a trust, and every institution held accountable to the citizens it serves. With that in mind, Katiba Day, 16 years later, must be more than an annual anniversary. It must be a day of national accounting. We must take a collective pause and reflect on a few critical questions. Have we faithfully implemented the Constitution? Have we exercised the authority it confers upon us responsibly? Have we effectively delivered the rights that the Constitution guarantees? And have our institutions fully honored the purposes for which they were established? These questions apply to the executive, to Parliament, to the judiciary, to the national and county governments, to constitutional commissions and independent offices, and to every state and public officer. Ladies and gentlemen, our Constitution performs two equally important principles. First, it restrains power. It shares authority, establishes checks and balances, protects fundamental freedoms, and provides remedies against abuse. Second, it manages power. It commands the state to govern, protect, and provide, and progressively realize the social and economic rights of the people. Our responsibility is to uphold both obligations. Power must be managed and rights must be assured. That is why Article 43 is central to any honest assessment of constitutional implementation. It guarantees every person the right to the highest attainable standards of health, accessible and adequate housing, and reasonable standards of sanitation, freedom from hunger, and adequate food of acceptable quality, clean and safe water in adequate quantities, social security, and education. It further declares that no person shall be denied emergency medical treatment and requires the state to provide appropriate social security to persons unable to support themselves and their dependents. These are not ornamental provisions placed in our Constitution. They are fundamental rights. Article 21 requires the state to take legislative, policy, and other measures, including the setting of standards, to achieve the progressive realization of what I have stated. But progressive realization does not mean indefinite postponement. It recognizes that resources are finite, but requires every government to take reasonable, deliberate, concrete, and measurable steps towards fulfilling these rights. Progress must therefore be visible in whether a mother can obtain health care, whenever and whether an emergency patient is treated before being asked for pay, whether a family has clean water, whether a child can attend school, and whether a citizen can afford a decent home, and whether a vulnerable person can live in dignity. To my mind, therefore, the ultimate test of the constitutional implementation is not how often we quote the Constitution or invoke constitutionalism,